Hi, everybody. Welcome to Break It Down. Happy wine class, everybody. My name is Molly Moran. I am the owner of Table Wine. I feel like I know many of you personally, but in case we don't know each other, hello, welcome. Tonight's class is one of my very favorite formats for learning and teaching about wine. I do wish that I could see all of your faces tonight because when I teach this class, it's one of the most kind of light bulb over the head moments for a lot of people where I can like physically see people learning. So we'll use the chat bar as best we can. You guys are being not as chatty as normal. So chat away. That's what it's here for. And that's the way that these classes can mimic in-person learning as best as we can. So I do have a question up about what your favorite aroma or flavor is in wine. So I'm curious to see what you guys gravitate towards. And if your answer is, I like white wine smell or I like red wine smell, that is a legitimate answer and I'm happy to see it. So go for it. So let's see. If you citrus or pepper, yay. Like black pepper, I assume, probably not. Maybe it's bell pepper. Most people mean black pepper. If you haven't already pulled your rosé and white out of the fridge, do black pepper. All right, black pepper is getting 2 nods already. If you haven't already pulled your rosé and white out of the fridge, please do that. I do hope that you have the physical items that I mentioned. If you don't, this class is kind of theoretical and it's not going to be nearly as helpful. So if you don't have them with you, I would say either hang out and watch us tonight and then, keep some wine in these bottles and try again tomorrow, or come back and visit this site some other time, perhaps, because it really is about the physical items themselves. So hopefully you were able to rustle up some peaches, which nice timing on my part. Peaches are like perfection right now. Bell pepper. I did mention that it preferably green bell pepper. I think as many of you know, probably most all of you, green peppers definitely have a different smell and flavor than say like a sweet red bell pepper. So hopefully you got yourself a green one. If you didn't and you got yourself a red one, that's all right. And then this is the one that I'm really hopeful that you were able to rustle up in some capacity, which is, you're going to be able to see it, gravel of some kind. There's been a lot of chatter about, are we going to lick the rocks tonight? And we'll just say that that's our red wine and we'll end there and we'll see where the evening takes us. I think peaches are a lot less scary. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the peaches. Let's talk a little bit about what it is that we're doing. We're doing something called component tasting. And it is quite simply finding a wine that has a prominent aroma or flavor and an item, that specific item that flavor or aroma is. So it is a matter of smelling the wine, tasting the wine, smelling the item, later tasting the item. It's not a surprise, I would think, that if you eat a piece of peach and then you drink a wine, it's probably going to taste like peach, right? Because you have peach in your mouth. So it's very essential to component tasting that it starts with the smells, smelling the wine, smelling the item, tasting the wine. And then eventually, if you want to taste the item, that's okay. It's not like don't do it, but don't start with like a big old bite of the peach or the bell pepper, because it really is going to kind of kill your palate a little bit. So that is what component tasting is. Why are we doing it? It is such an amazing learning tool. It is fun. I think that a lot of people who are signed up tonight have taken this class in some form or another. And the other part of this is it's never ending. You can keep doing this ad infinitum, honestly. You just have to find wines that have a specific tasting note or a specific aroma. So, for the pepper lovers, right? Get a Malbec, get a Syrah. You could even do, a couple different wines that all have that as kind of a prominent tasting note, and see like, where do you pick up on it, right? Because some wines smell like a thing and some wines taste like a thing and some wines do both. And then, Patty, you get yourself some tobacco and leather. Beth, you can grab yourself some cherries and raspberry. This is a great time for that. It really is a great time for that. So considering the world that we're living in, this is something that I think is pretty fun to do as a socially distanced gathering. I've always encouraged people when I teach this class, like, do this with your friends. I think that it translates really well. Astoria, grab some lemongrass, and I'll get you a New Zealand Sauv Blanc, and you'll call it a night. So yeah, it's fun. Why is it such a good learning technique? It is setting something in your memory in a new way. So it is actually creating a sense memory in a way that is different, genuine, like different neural pathways than just you tasting the wine itself. It helps set the memory in a slightly different way, I guess is the best way that I can summarize that. So what that means is that you're going to be able to recall these three wines in a more concrete fashion than perhaps I might argue, than any other wine you've ever tasted, or than like general, I sat around, I drank some wine, I maybe tried to talk about it a little bit. It really does kind of help like solidify, what does that mean? I did a series last year in 2019. I did a series each season where we did the different fruits of the season following this model. And I do think that that's also a really good way to do it, because what we think a peach tastes like and what a peach actually tastes like are different things. What we think bell pepper smells like and what it actually does can be different. And then kind of seeing the correlation between like, when somebody says it smells like bell pepper, what does that actually taste like or smell like in a wine? Sometimes it is like you are drinking the wine and, oh my gosh, it's like having that literal item in a glass, right? But sometimes it's more like I'm picking up hints of it, or it has the same sensation or something along those lines. So just getting a little bit more familiar with kind of, what do wine people mean when we say something tastes like peach? Something has a certain aroma. And I just think it helps you improve your palate. The more that you taste mindfully, the better you are at tasting. I never want to discourage people from just enjoying wine. I think most of you know that about me by now. I want people to just drink and have fun. So I do like to say that this class comes with like, I don't know, a gentle warning label of like, yeah, we're going to be a little nerdy. Like, that's the point of this, is like to do something a little bit more focused on wine than sitting on your porch drinking a bottle of rosé with your friends. If you're sitting on your porch right now and you're all happy and you just kind of like have me on, that's fine too, no worries. But the point of component tasting is to be more mindful. So if you find yourselves compelled to close your eyes while you're smelling, while you're tasting, it does help, right? You can block stuff off. I might find myself doing that. We'll find out. Does anybody have questions before we kind of get underway? There's a lot less. I don't have any slides or anything tonight, because there's a lot less of me talking. It's not, there's not history or anything to talk about. This is just purely kind of like, getting down to the actual tasting of the wine. So if you don't have questions, let's pour ourselves some Viognier. So for those of you who shopped with me, pour yourselves a little bit of the Gassier Viognier. And for those of you elsewhere in the country, pour yourselves whatever your peach wine is. Hopefully you were able to find that. So one of the reasons that I started with peach, it didn't have to be peach specifically. People tend to find identifying fruit in wine a little easier than identifying some of the other things. So tonight we have a fruit. Technically, bell peppers are fruits, but I'm calling it a vegetable because it falls into the wine world's category of vegetable. And then a mineral, something very much not something that we typically put in our mouths. So fruit is usually a little bit more familiar to us because wine is made from grapes. So kind of translating grape to, an apple or something like that isn't this gigantic leap. So fruit is often easier for people. That does not mean it is always easy for people. Sorry, do you see me waving? It's because my daughter just walked in. Pardon me for just a second.
Hi, I lost my tooth.
Oh, we have an 8-year-old who lost her tooth. Hey, everybody. Pardon us. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine.
Okay.
I pulled it out.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
disgusting.
Hi, Hayes. I'm glad to see you. Guys, I'm in the middle of an event.
Sorry.
Woohoo! Yay, very exciting. Everybody's clapping for you. Everybody's really happy for you. Close that door, please. Well, there we are, folks. That is real life right there. That does not happen when we're at table wine. Okay, sorry, I'm gathering myself. You might have noticed if you've been taking class with me, I'm in a different room than I normally am because we're having some construction done in our house. And so I am down here instead of in my office with the door closed. And I did say, I should just go to table wine, but the store's still open. And so I thought that would be the distracting things. But lo and behold, it's tooth falling out. Okay. Back to wine, guys. So fruit can often be the easier thing. One thing I did not mention at the top of class was where do these aromas and flavors come from? Everything that we are tasting tonight falls into the category of primary aroma and flavors. So those are a category, and it's the biggest, widest swath of things that come to wine from the specific grape and the place where it's grown. So the things that we are tasting and smelling tonight are coming from the varietal, they're coming from the soil, they're coming from the climate, the amount of water, those kinds of things. So there are things called secondary and tertiary aromas. We're not going to dive into those tonight. We can definitely always do another component tasting because, like I said, it's endless. So here we go, guys. So what I would recommend is smelling your wine and then actually smelling the peach. As I mentioned, it does help if you have sliced your fruit instead of just a whole peach, but go for it. And this is where I get to be super nerdy and talk to you guys about sometimes my tasting notes will say ripe peach, and sometimes my tasting notes will say unripe peach, and sometimes they'll say peach skin, and sometimes they'll say peach pit, and all of that stuff, right? And you're like, how the hell, what are you talking about? But if you think about it, there are all those different flavors, and they do have different aromas, so it's not totally outside of the realm of possibility. So, right, power of suggestion. Wondering how people are feeling. So then go ahead and taste the wine, see if you are kind of catching the same smell as what you're tasting. And then you can go back and forth if you feel like having some peach. My peach smells absolutely delicious, so I'm probably going to have a bite. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think? Is it oh my gosh, obviously this is so peachy, I would have said that, or I'm not so sure about peach? It's subtle. Picking up more floral, a little tang. Yeah, a little bit of that kind of like tart peach thing, almost for sure. Astoria is saying the floral thing, and I think that's true, right? That's Viognier. One of the things with wine professionals, the wine smells slightly sweeter. Yeah, but then it's not, it's not that sweet. Like it's more, it's fruity, but without being super, super sweet. More apple, Heather. Are you getting peach at all? Or is it like, no, I'm not getting peach in any way. When we're learning to taste wine as a wine professional, the ideal scenario for every single wine that I taste is to pick up on 3 distinct fruits and 3 distinct other things. That is super hard. It's super, super hard to say, like, and so you know peach, but you didn't get your wine chilled. Girl, come on. Sorry. Yeah. Makes sense that the floral might come out then more if the wine isn't. No peach. You also agree with apple. Agreed on the peach scent. Okay, so there's like a little bit of debate here. So when I'm tasting a wine, I'm trying to pick up on 3 fruits and 3 other things, which means it's not just peach, right? So for me, I would have peach. I gotta be honest, I'm not getting apple. I'm not. Jenna at the store, our manager, she also loves this wine, and she has said apple to me, and I don't know, it just doesn't taste like apples to me. So that's what makes the world go round. But the spicy notes, I'm agreeing with the floral thing for sure. And so those are like kind of all parts of it, right? It's not just one thing and none of the other things. Heather, Heather, do you have a peach with you? I'm really surprised that neither scent nor taste reminds you anything of a peach. I've also mentioned this whenever I do teach peach, because I do tend to, you might be unprepared. Well then. No, I love it. I do mean, I mean it when I say it, like, come back and do this again with the item, because so frequently, so frequently, what we think of as a thing's smell or flavor is not actually it. Nikki saying you get unripe peach. Yeah, like I wouldn't say that this wine is like super juicy, like peach nectar kind of thing. I feel like I was starting to say something and now it has escaped my mind. But oh, I know what I was going to say. I often teach peach. It's just a flavor that I gravitate towards, and I enjoy it. I enjoy peaches. But I am a girl of the 90s. So I used to wear peach Body Shop perfume that smelled like peaches, like peach blossom. That was my signature scent. So whenever I smell this wine, I'm like, oh yeah, it smells like me at 16. Peach skin, Astoria, that's it. Yes, that's it. You know, Katie said earlier that tart peach skin, like absolutely, that's what I'm talking about. And that's when I said, like, you know, you can get super nerdy about it. Like the difference between the skin and the flesh are different. And, you know, this is your time. You can do it now. You can do it after class. You can do it tomorrow, whatevs. Do that, right? Get a little bit of the pit, eat the flesh, eat the skin, and kind of see all of those different things. Canned peaches, right? Like that's a super different ball game. I've come across some really cheap Moscatos that kind of veer into like canned peach land. But I think that one of the reasons that I do love component tasting so much is to just kind of keep drawing the distinction, and you can kind of keep going down that path as deep as you want to, you know. White peaches aren't in season yet, but white peaches are not just unripe peaches, and they have a slightly different flavor and they have a slightly different aroma. And when I was talking about kind of like improving your palate, you know, it just kind of helps to broaden your reference points, right? I have steered away from it more recently than I did when the shop first opened, but I used to work at a restaurant that had candied violets on a dessert. And so for me, candied violets was like saying, frankly, it was like saying lemon. Like it was just like this thing that I tasted all the time. I described to people all the time, and I was like super familiar with. And then in wine, you know, like I would then use it as a tasting note. And I realized somewhere along the road that like, that's not that helpful to people, because a lot of people don't know what the hell a candied violet tastes like. You know, people would look at me and be like, do violets have a scent? Do they even smell? Do they have a flavor? And I'd be like, oh, sure, right? So, you know, not that you've never had a peach before, but have you ever had it like super mindfully in this moment? It smells like peach jam, but the taste isn't as sweet. Peach skin. I completely agree, Sarah. Like, I think. And another thing worth mentioning as my wine is warming up, wines smell and taste different when they are cold than when they are warm. So Astoria was saying earlier that she wasn't picking up on the peach. She was getting more of the floral notes. I'm starting, as my wine has now been out of the fridge for about half an hour, a little bit more. I'm actually am getting a little bit of that apple thing. So, hey guys, we just hung out long enough for me to get to where you were. So, you know, you can kind of experiment with that. Any questions, thoughts? One other thing that I didn't say about the benefit of this is that when you then know this, you can say, oh, I really enjoyed that peach wine. What are grapes? What are varietals that often have that as a flavor? I want to seek those out. Or, wow, that was not my cup of tea. I do not want to drink peachy wine. Don't do that, right? And you can learn what the varietals are. Or, you know, in COVID land, you can order from us and you can tell us, turns out I really don't like peach, so please steer clear of that. I mean, we get those kinds of requests all the time, and it's super helpful. If somebody tells me, I had an order today, I don't want a floral, I know exactly what not to give them. So, yeah. Can you do component tasting with similar items? Absolutely, Sarah. So I mentioned at the beginning that last year in 2019, each quarter I did a different component tasting class, and it was just the fruits of that season. So last year at this time, we did summer fruits, and I don't know off the top of my head, but I say that we did like probably peach, maybe white peach, and a couple of different berries and cherries. You could do just the berry family. You could, you know, it would take some work like finding the wines, but you could, I mean, honestly, you could do a tasting of just different apple varietals. Granny Smith versus Honeycrisp versus Gala. Like, you can do this honestly in whatever direction you want. It can take some work to get the wines, but that's what I'm for. So, you know, you can do that. All right, guys, other questions? Thank you all for being so understanding and flexible about my daughter. My husband left me here so that I could do class, and so he's not on hand to run interference when the tooth got lost. So thanks, guys. Fall class for apples. I'd be down. With like Orchard County. Orchard County? That's not a county. What are you talking about? Oh, is that what Arma means? Apple class. Okay, guys. All right. Apple class is done. I will do it. Maybe, you know what? Oh, I love this Astoria. I'm so glad. I will look into possibly maybe doing a little cross promotion with a local orchard, right? Where you could pick up the wines and the apples at Table Wine. I say that, I don't know. Yeah, but you know, let's support our local growers. I know, I was going to say Door Creek, Ellen. I was going to say Door Creek, and then I was like, well, I don't want to put the pressure on Door Creek if you know, that doesn't work out. But yes, that's where I always go apple picking. So, okay, I'm on it. I'm on it, guys. Apple season, apple class. For those friends not in Wisconsin, I don't know. Is there apple season in Texas, Linda? I'm curious. I don't know. You know, I assume so. I don't know. You probably get your apples shipped in from around here. Okay, guys. We're going to move on to wine number 2. It is if you're drinking table wines, it's the Messange Rosé with the pretty little chickadee on it. So this is Rosé of Cabernet Franc from the Loire Valley. And Cab Franc's, one of Cab Franc's definite giveaway telltale signs is bell pepper. I am going to teach Cab Franc class in September, so stay tuned for that. That is coming. It's not on the calendar yet, but it's coming. So we will explore Cab Franc more. But when rosé is made from Cab Franc, I would say that it is one of the biggest corollary, like the aromas that you get in the red made from this grape and the aromas and flavors that you get in the rosé from this grape are so clearly linked to each other. You know, I think Grenache is kind of the same, but then there are others, you know, like Pinot Noir. Red Pinot Noir doesn't taste like lemons, and rosé made from Pinot Noir almost invariably tastes like citrus. It's like always so zippy and high in acid. So I love Cab Franc rosé for the teaching moment. So here we are. Here's your teaching moment. So have your bell pepper, have your rosé. Give it a sniff. Give it a sniff. I recommend tasting both if you're up for it, if you can handle peppers. I'm glad you have a pepper, Heather. Side note, I have not had a green pepper in I don't know how long. Not as unpleasant as I remembered. I did notice, I mentioned this to Astoria today. She came by the store to pick up her wines. I did mention that I noticed that many of you out there in TV land did not buy all 3 wines. And I noticed that a lot of people didn't buy the mineral wine. And I'm disappointed because I really wanted everybody to stick rocks in their mouth. No, but I did think it was funny because when you sign up for this class to take it in person, you don't know what the items are. So you're just kind of like along for the ride, right? But this way I had to give up the ghost and, you know, darn it. Some of you decided to not do it. Okay. So Katie says mineral. Oh, you'd choose mineral over bell pepper? Like in terms of what you'd have to taste? I know. So would I. But, well. How's bell pepper going for people? Is it there? Do you smell it? Do you taste it? Strong taste. Mm-hmm. It's very aromatic. It's very, very aromatic. That's another thing about Cab Franc. And again, I think, you know, just this is like a precursor to September. Cab Franc is very, it has that strong kind of pepper, dried herbs, floral aromas. You're weirdly getting it more on the palate than nose. Would not have thought these would go together. Interesting. Kristen, I agree with you, or Patty, whichever one of you said that. That felt like a Kristen comment. This wine is so interesting because every vintage, I I'm kind of like mindful of the bell pepper thing, and I taste it, and it definitely, again, I'll just show you the label in case you don't have this wine in front of you. This is the Masange Rosé. It's one of my favorites. We always carry it. And it's a wine that shows a more vintage variation than some of our other rosés. So some of our other rosés, I would say, are kind of like meant for mass consumption. The winemakers want you to know that you always like, I will not name the wines, but just like, hey, that's a good, reliable one. I can always buy that. And Palouse is always similar, right? It's always made from Cab Franc and in their little vineyards in Chinon, but there's some variance. So last year, Andy, who I think many of you know, he was like jalapeno, like that wine tastes like jalapenos. And I took it home and I was like, man, this just tastes like rainwater to me. Like it's all whetstones. It's all minerals. And so this year I was like, oh, curious to see kind of what happens. And I completely agree with Kristen where I get a floral aroma to the wine, but then it is more on the palate than it is on the nose for me personally. Fennel. I would definitely agree with fennel. Yeah. And I think those are all, those are kind of all fair game. When I tell you like, hey, I want you to try to pick up on this flavor and this aroma, I'm not telling you that's the only thing that you can pick up on, right? Because, there's also some tart red fruit there. There are also some minerals there. But just kind of this general, like, can we all agree that there's something like green and vegetal happening? I think we can all agree on that. Great. Fennel. That's great. Yeah, great. See, that's all we had to do. We just had to agree on that much. We don't have to all, necessarily go down that path. I did taste a Cab Franc today that really, really smelled like somebody was roasting red peppers, like right next to me. And I got very excited for September. I do think that sour cherries. Oh, interesting. I like that. I like sour cherries a lot. I think my mind goes to like tart raspberry, but that's never felt exactly right, Beth. Like it's like one of those moments where I'm like, that's what I'm saying, or like that's like the closest I can get. But then I think sour cherries might be a little bit more spot on. Astoria, I also don't like green peppers, but I also really don't like fennel. So I'm never gonna, I wouldn't gravitate towards that either. I do use fennel as a tasting note though. Nothing's off the table. Yeah. So I do think that there's fruit there. There's something vegetal. There's something green there. Is anybody picking up on anything that we haven't covered? They're like, we got to stop the presses. Snap peas. I love that. Yeah. I think that's totally in that green vegetal thing, right? Like that's, I have not had a chance to do this, but it could be an interesting thought experiment. Bear with me here while I kind of brainstorm. Where we get a wine, the royal we, you get a wine, I get a wine, and get a number of items that the wine might kind of match up with and see which one our palate kind of agrees with the most, right? Because I think that there's something in the mid palate for me that is very bell pepper. But Sarah says snap peas, and I'm like, oh, yes, this finish is very snap pea kind of flavor. So it could be kind of cool. Anything else that we haven't covered? Okay. Oh, I was starting to say, pardon me, guys. I feel like I'm a little scattered. Rosés, I have found they can be kind of tricky for people to pick up on. Different aromas. I think a lot of times people say like red fruit and kind of like call it a day, right? I always say that like the generic tasting note for rosé is strawberry. Everybody says strawberry. You know, if you look at a wine website, a winery's website, that, you know, they always say strawberry. And I'm like, do really every single rosé taste like strawberries? You know, I don't think this does. Now, I don't even think Palouse has a website, but I don't think that they would say strawberry for that. But it's one reason that I like to include a rosé in a class like this, in a format like this, where you can kind of think about something beyond red fruit, beyond just a red berry of some sort, and kind of pick up on different things. So, you know, again, just more ideas for kind of how you can take this and run with it if you want. You know, you can find yourselves rosés that are, you know, pick up kind of flavors and aromas that are all things that are not just red berries. So I'm looking at comments. Gwen saying that the first one tastes much more peachy than the first time. Great. And like, depends on how far in advance of class you had taken it out of the fridge. If you had just grabbed it out of your fridge, it was very, very cold. And so you might not have been able to get kind of all of those flavors and aromas. Yeah, so you did just open it. Totally makes sense, right? So that would be why when you first taste it, it doesn't taste like much. When wine is that cold, there's one acid in wine that we can taste at that temperature. And that's really all you taste. So often when people say to me, like, it just kind of has this generic like white wine flavor, that's why. Kristen and Patty are saying that they want, you know, that this wine is just overall awesome. There is an Instagram live in which Connor and I sit around for 25 minutes and talk about how much we love this wine. We love this wine. Yeah, we're pretty great. First, it almost tastes and feels carbonated. This wine, the rosé, does. I'm guessing, I think that's probably what you both are referring to. That would just be acidity. That would just be that kind of like light tingle. Get ready for a little spritz in just a second here, guys, because this is not the wine that is lightly spritzy, but we're about to do it. Questions before we leave it. It is overall awesome, and I'm noticing the Loire Valley love, so maybe Loire Valley will be a class I teach sometime. Try the first one again just now, and then compare. Oh, great. And like, you know, let's be real. The power of suggestion definitely plays a part in, you know, in that. But if your wines are warming up, which I'm assuming they are, that could also be part of the reason why. So, this wine tastes like sour fruit punch marinated in flowers, which is fun. That's great. I love that. I love it. I've been threatening forever to just like have, I don't know, like a day where everybody gets to write tasting notes for me, and I'll just put them out into the world and see what people think. I did a private tasting recently for some really wonderful people, and they were so game for just saying what they were smelling and tasting. And I started just like keeping a list because it was like s'mores. And I was like, I want to write s'mores on a tasting note sometime. That's amazing. All right. I think we're good. We're going to leave rosé behind for now. We can always circle back and ask questions. So pour yourselves a little bit of the red. Here's the red, in case you didn't have a chance to pick it up, or you chose not to because you were afraid of rocks. I really do hope that you were able to secure some gravel of some kind. I know it's a weird request, but it's an important teaching moment. Minerals, here they are. Minerality is something that people find to be incredibly challenging to pick up on in wine. It can be subtle. It can be very, very obvious, but it can be subtle. Lots of new construction in the neighborhood. I love it. It can be subtle. It can be just unfamiliar. It can be something that you've never in your life thought about, and that is totally fair. And I understand why. It's not your job to sit around thinking about all the different things that you've ever come across in your whole life that maybe a wine could possibly smell like. So I understand that. But unlocking your preference on minerality is something that I think is really important and can help you decide what kind of varietals you like, what countries you want to drink wine from, or what states you want to drink wine from. It can really unlock a lot. So I feel like we started kind of with the most familiar thing and kind of are working towards the more esoteric things. So I am not going to tell you that you have to put the rocks in your mouth. However, when I have taught minerals in class before, people have asked me, do you want us to put the rocks in your mouth? And I have said, no, I'll let you do that on your own time. It's your own time. You're at your house. No one can see you. If you would like to smell the wine, smell the rocks, taste the wine, put the rocks in your mouth, I don't care what you do. So you do you. Balsamic. I think that's pretty spot on. So there's the tingle, in case anybody's missing it. There is definite tingle here. Rock tasting part of archaeology? I was not aware that was part of the deal. Bones? Do you taste bones? Fascinating. I love this. I think charcoal's totally fair. For me, there's a place that I go, my family's cottages, my husband's family's cottages, and you turn down a gravel road. And the second, to get to the cottage by the lake, right? And the second I smelled this wine, I just was like instant gravel for me, like instant crushed rocks, walking on those rocks. That same kind of smell, that same kind of thing. I did wash these rocks. So this is the point where I am going to put a rock in my mouth and I'm going to see how it goes. Well, that's the same sensation. That feels, is it more about the aftertaste? It can be to you, Ellen. For me, I really got it on, oh yeah, the rock doesn't taste like much until it's gone. Yeah. That same kind of finish. Yeah. I thought you were asking about the wine. Yeah, for sure. Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna say, guys, like you should stick the rocks in your mouth if you have rocks at your house right now and they're relatively clean. Or you have a sink and you could just rinse them off because we're not all just sitting around a table at Table Wine right now. You can do it. I've recommended her to some folks before. There's a blog called Wine Folly that I really like. I think she has a very nice approach to talking about wine and teaching them wine and explaining it. And she does have a really kind of hilarious YouTube video of herself tasting rocks and tasting river stones. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I feel like there was one that was kind of like mossy. It kind of looked a little slimy. I'm not necessarily recommending that you have to do that. But sometimes in class, and please, if you're one of these people, speak up. If you are like, I don't know what you mean. Like, I'm not picking up on the rocks. I'm not picking up on minerality at all. Please, like, do it. Tell me this. But I do sometimes get folks who kind of have like a hands up approach about minerality, like that's just like too hard. I don't understand it. Or like, how would I know what that tastes like? And, I think that living here specifically in this place, we don't really get to like say like, man, I don't know what rocks smell like. Like you just have to go to the lake. I'm gesturing because that's the direction of the closest lake to me. And stand by the lake and smell it, right? Those stones. Any of us, wherever we live, there's rain sometime. The smell of asphalt after it rains, the smell of the sidewalk after it rains, right? Concrete, like that is minerality. Salt is minerality, right? So there's minerality out there that you can kind of seek out. So if you weren't able to get yourselves gravel tonight, I understand. But I do think that like you can dig into this a little bit. Do white and red wines both have minerality equally? I feel like I've heard about it more with whites. It's a good question, Ellen. I would say that as a tasting note, minerality tends to come up with whites more frequently than it does with reds. If you drink a lot, and I'm trying to remember what kinds of reds you drink, I do think that it would come up for you. If you drink old world reds, Spanish, Italian, or French, minerality does come up in reds in the old world more than it does in the new world. New world wines tend to be a little bit riper just due to climate. And so they tend to have a little bit more fruit flavors. So the minerality kind of can get overshadowed or not be existent at all. And also new world tendencies, winemaking tendencies lean more towards oak and stuff. So you kind of miss it. You kind of, overshadow minerals there. You get the mineral notes more from the nose than the taste. I like, having never done that before just now, when I smelled this wine originally, when I smelled and tasted this wine originally, it was all gravel on the nose to me, and it wasn't so much on the palate. And then tonight, I got it more. Ellen, it's a bit like lake water. Yes. I think that that's totally right. And that's, again, why I say that like here in Madison specifically, it's silly to say you don't know what that is like, right? We have access to those smells. I mean, gosh, the water that comes out of our tap smells like that sometimes. The mouthfeel and the lingering taste, I completely agree. Astoria, I don't think you need to have this specific rock. I mean, you're saying granite and rainwater, you're there. Like you're on the minerality train. So I do think that the slight effervescence helps kind of get us all there. This wine, it is relatively new to the shop. It's only a couple of weeks old. If for those of you who took Spanish whites class with me, gosh, a while back, early pandemic time, and we had the Chacalina, the Amastoy, that lightly effervescent white from the Basque region of Spain. This is the same winemaker. This is like a brand new project for them that I'm really excited about, because the Amastoy wines are all start at 20 and go up, and the Belza is a little more approachable price, which I just think is really fun. And I just think it's like, Ellen's question about does minerality come up in red equally? And I would say no. Like, I don't think that it does. It's there, but it doesn't get kind of bandied about and talked about quite as much. And so I do love kind of having a minerally red that you can talk about. I did not inform everybody to chill it because I thought, just drink it as you drink it. But now that you have it open, if you don't finish it tonight, you can definitely stick it in your fridge and drink it with a little bit of a chill on it. And then Beth is saying blackberries. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is like Beth, you're knocking it out of the park on your fruit. I feel like I could just as easily have picked this wine to talk about blackberries as I could to do minerals. And that goes back to that idea of like, it's not just one thing, and kind of thinking about all the things that a wine can be. Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's super fruity. I mean, this is Grenache. Grenache is known for being fruity and some minerals. I also do like to teach minerals with a red because it isn't something that we talk about a lot. Someday in the future, I will do a Loire Valley class again. Loire Valley is like, let's just talk. We can just talk endlessly about soil, which is not something I ever thought I would be an expert in. But then I taught Loire Valley class and I was like, oh, look at this. Look at how much soil science I now know. But it's something that you talk about and think about with Loire Valley white wines, with Champagne, that Alma story that I was talking about, that Basque region wine. We talk about it with whites. We don't necessarily focus on it in red. So I did want to kind of focus on that more than here's blackberry. Not that it's not delicious in blackberry. All right. How did it go? Was there a clear favorite from a learning perspective? I always love to know what you guys enjoy drinking, but I'm curious if there was one that was like that was the aha moment, or that was like the thing I'd not thought about. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Yeah, right. I love minerals. I love it. It is my tasting note. If I had been asked what's my favorite flavor or aroma, like my thing is salt, minerals, rocks, really of any kind. Hey man, see, tasting a rock helps, right? Like now you know what that tastes like. So that's good. Why did he know what rocks already tasted like? I love this. Yeah. So the idea that wet rocks isn't what wet rocks actually smell and taste like, right? Like, I think that that's so important. And one of the things that I love about component tasting, and why I encourage you, if you take this out into the world, that you not just do things you already know you like, be it the item or the wine. It can be helpful to do things that are less familiar to you. What are foods that you don't eat a lot of? What are items that you don't encounter frequently? Because you do know what a lemon tastes like. You do, like you actually do. Whereas you might not necessarily know, I don't know what a pluot tastes like. Maine blueberries on that. Learning perspective was rosé. That's awesome. Oh, good. I'm so glad. You didn't know wine could taste like bell peppers. Now you're afraid of rando rosés. Okay, so Katie, if you do not like bell peppers and you are afraid of getting that flavor, here is your down and dirty, easy thing. Just avoid rosé made from Cab Franc. That's it. I've never come across a rosé made from a different grape that had that kind of flavor. So pretty easy. Rosé and vegetables, who'd have thought? Good learning experience. Yeah. And and Katie, don't join us for Cab Franc class. If you really don't like that flavor. If you are, as we're talking through these things, one thing that, I didn't spend a lot of time talking about because that was not the point of tonight's class, is from a food pairing perspective. It's obviously like really easy to pair these things with these foods, right? So pairing viognier with pork chops and peaches, some fish with peach salsa, right? Like that's how the food pairing kind of travels from this. That's why this helps, right? This rosé, you're like, I'm not so sure. Well, okay, have some ratatouille, right? Have some of that, something with bell pepper in it, have it with pizza, something like that. It will work. When you see minerals in wine, you're not gonna have rocks for dinner. It's kind of shorthand for seafood, or charcuterie. So with a minerally red, like the Belza, with all that fruit, it's going to be just knockout with spicy charcuterie of some kind. The fruit will help soften up the spice a little bit. And then the minerals kind of mimic that same kind of like irony quality that comes through in charcuterie, but you could also do it with shellfish because it's light enough. Oh, Beth, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that the peach was helpful. I did say at the beginning that fruit is often the easiest one for people, but I have seen with some folks that like it's not easy for them, that's like the harder thing for them to kind of pick up on, because it's like, it all kind of smells like grapes. The irony quality in steaks. Yeah. Yes. It'll be delicious with steak. It'll be absolutely delicious. I say stick it back in your fridge so it has a little chill on it. But yeah, it'll be super delicious with that. I do know that fruit can be very challenging for some people. And sometimes people just like, it just smells like wine to them, or like getting past grapes. People will ask me, I think most of you are familiar with the aroma board that I have at the store. And while I have lots of different fruits listed up there, I do not have grape listed up there. And it's not that grape is never a tasting note for wine, but it is rarely. And so I don't put it up there because I don't want people to have that as kind of like a little escape route for themselves. Because I do think that people would kind of lean on that crutch a little bit. And I think that if you did this, got Viognier, and Chardonnay and, like a whole variety, Sauv Blanc, you got yourself like all sorts of different white wines, and you had green grapes in front of you, you would realize how much those wines do not actually taste like green grapes. And again, I know none of you said that tonight, but just kind of like as, more learning. So we're just about at time. I'm glad to see that people kind of got something from all three of the wines, that like they were helpful, for different people for different reasons. We did discuss fall apples. If there's anything else, either component tasting specific or other classes, I'm here. I'll hang out for like a minute or two. I'm open. Next time, chalk. You haven't tasted that before either. I'm pretty sure that when I taught chalk, I did suggest that some of you could put it in your mouth. No, we passed a piece of chalk around. Okay. We'll do chalk. We can do chalk. Okay, so chalk. So yeah, if there are suggestions either for other things you want to taste as a group, or if there are other class ideas, I'm totally open. Leather and tobacco. Okay, let's do it. I might wait till the weather gets a little cooler because I'm just thinking about those wines. Oh, Ellen, onion grass. Matt. I don't know that I've come across a wine that has the onion grass flavor. If I come, how about this? I promise you, it's now on my radar. Yeah, but even chives, it doesn't come up that frequently. If I come across a wine where that's even remotely in my wheelhouse of things I'm tasting, I am here for that. I will bring that into the thing. Ellen, I really, I love that comment. I love when people decide how they feel about minerality, one way or the other. I think it's like tannins, it's like acidity, it's like one of those fundamental qualities of wine that when you figure out what you like, now now you can just go, explore wine in a whole new way. So yay, that's fantastic. Oh gosh, now I'm just like thinking about chive wine now. This is so exciting for me. Oh, good. I'm so glad that it was fun to do from home. I was a little like, I don't know how this is all going to work out. All right, chive wine it is, guys. I am on the lookout for chive wine. Thank you guys so much. As always, you're a wonderful group, and thank you again for your understanding and flexibility about real life happening. I really appreciate all of you. If you haven't signed up for classes in August, I am teaching Chenin Blanc in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks from today. And then I am teaching South Africa, which I originally was going to do South Africa in person in March. And so it has now been rescheduled for all of us to enjoy. So we'll do Portugal not Portugal. You're all saying Portugal over here. South Africa in 3 weeks. I see you. I see the Portugal requests, guys. Yes. On the radar. Okay. So thank you all so much. Have a lovely evening, guys. Bye.